So it's going to be a bit weird because I'm going to ask you some questions that I know the answers to already.
All right.
But
I'll just make you feel bad about not knowing them, man.
I do know
You
them.
should know this one, Andrew.
Well,
All
I do
right,
know
so.
them. I just, I need to get out for the listeners.
All right, sweet.
So starting off then, how would you personally describe glass caves?
Is this started or is this official?
Yes, it started.
All
It's a
right.
cool thing to do with podcast, mate. You just get started. You don't
just
do a big
flow
intro.
in.
Yeah,
Flow in.
mate.
Do you not need
Trying
to
to be cool there.
describe the situation, all right? Let's see our podcast. Sorry, I'm overruling it. All right. So, how would I describe glass caves? It's like alternative indie pop funk rock. You know, simplistic.
Yeah, pretty simple. I remember,
Yeah.
I think it might have been an Instagram page once, or maybe your Twitter. Your bio said something like,
Right.
hairy indie rock from Yorkshire.
We're pretty damn airy, so that's true still, doesn't it?
Definitely. And how did you all meet then?
We all met, well, there were a band before we were Glass Caves, and they were called, well, I say a band like none of us were involved, but Elliot and Connor and the old bassist, and, well, that were it. There were three of them, and they were called The Sellers. They did really like Arctic Monkeys-y rock, when it were current, around the millennium times, and they just sort of, they were just making music, getting a lot of buzz, but nobody could really sing. So I met Elliot at uni, and he asked me, well, he'd seen me do a bit of Daniel Rice, Cannonball, on YouTube. It was pretty terrible, to be honest, so I don't know why he picked me up. And then he said, do you want to join the band? And I was like, maybe not. Probably not that bothered, to be honest. But then I did it. I had like an interview or
Really?
audition, you call it, so, wouldn't you? More of an audition. And
What did they actually ask you any questions?
yeah, they did. They grilled me a little bit, mate. I think they needed to know I was committed. You know what I mean? And then they thought I were all right, so they let me join. And then what did we do? So then it were four of us. It were me, Connor Elliott, and Tom Barton, the old bassist. And we were like, we need to just write loads of original tracks, and that's where we'll start. So we just started writing some stuff, and then we asked our other mate, Skinny, to join and play keys. So we were a 5-piece then when we first started out as Glass Caves, but we were still called the Sellers at this point. We did a couple talent shows, some open mics, just finding our feet and that, and then we decided we needed a band name. So I think we locked ourselves in a room for about 8 hours, scribbled loads of names down, and then finally we just came up with Glass Caves. But the meaning behind it's pretty terrible, to be honest. So I just won't bother.
No, go on.
All right, you asked for it. So cellars in French is cave, which is like caves, a bit like a cave.
That is a bit like
so
caves.
that's where that section came from. And then me and Skinny were joining the band. The rest of the band are based in like Pontefract region, and we were both from Glasshouse, and we were like, what about like we just call it like Glass Caves, put the two together. And we were like, oh, that sounds like cool. And they both got the same amount of letters, so it's quite symmetrical. And then we just decided, because we'd spent that long on it, that we were just going to call ourselves Glass Caves.
I do like that about your logo, the fact that it's so symmetrical.
Yeah, it does help. But then after that, I think like the next day we were like, that's a terrible name. But we just decided to stick with it because we couldn't think of anything better. And it's just stayed since then, really. You start getting a name for yourself, you're not going to change your name, are you?
Well, yeah. No, it's like Arctic Monkeys. They hate their name, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah, originally they were going to change it, but then John Cooper Clarke did a gig. I think they either supported or Alex was working the bar.
Yeah.
And he goes up to him and says, "What do you think of our band? We're called Arctic Monkeys."
Yeah.
And John Cooper Clarke's like, "Oh, I like it. It's like a vision of a monkey. Like, what's it doing there in the Arctic?" And, yeah,
I
so
like it. I like that.
well, was it were there already a lot of bands when you started? Because like there have been a few bands around the same time as you guys
Yeah,
that have glass in the
yeah.
name. Was that
There's
like parallel
absolutely
thinking or?
loads now, mate.
Yeah.
So many. We were on about putting on a glass fest. So I'm thinking, because there's that many of us now, I'm thinking we go hometown Ponty, but get a little stage up in the castle, Ponty Castle, and I think we'll run Glassfest. We'll ask Glass Animals down, they probably won't fancy it, like, but we've got Glass Peaks, we've got Glass Mountain, there's Plastic Glass have just come out, loads of glass bands, mate. I'm thinking we get them all in one place. We'll probably have like we could do like some sort of a wrestling match alongside the gigs, and then whoever comes out on top gets to keep the name. Yeah, and then whoever don't has to just quit and give up.
Brilliant.
Would you come to that?
Mate, I'd come back for it. Yeah, I'd absolutely come back for it.
20 quid a ticket.
Well, I mean, I can pay the plane ticket fare. I don't know if I can pay
All right, mate.
to
Well,
get in
I'll work on that then if you think it's a good idea. I
there.
mean,
Yeah,
it's been
mate, do
thrown
it.
around and stuff, but I think we go down that route.
Oh, I thought you were joking, but I
Glass
genuinely
Fest.
think that is a good idea.
No, I think we'll do it.
Black Honey
Straight up,
made
isn't
it.
it?
Black Honey were talking about doing Honey Fest at some farm called like
Oh, what?
Honey something
So it's
farm.
already been discussed.
But it was a joke. Like they're not actually doing it.
Oh, right, they're not doing it.
No.
They're mugs, mate. We're going to capitalise on it.
Well,
And
yeah,
then,
because the reaction to it, I immediately thought that is a sick idea.
great idea.
Yeah,
They're mugs.
get on it, mate. So
Didn't mean that black honey, by the way.
oh, I'm gonna hope to get on them on at some point. So
Tell them I said hello, mate.
so how early on did you know what kind of band you wanted to be? Because obviously when you were the Sellers, you were doing more Arctic Monkeys style that was popular at the time. How did you transition into what you became?
It's a weird one, isn't it? Like, it's the possibilities are endless. You could go down a different element with every instrument. I think when we started out, we just wanted to be like organic sounding. We wanted to have melodies, and we just wanted to write what we just liked the sound of. We didn't really know how to write songs at all. We just we just made some stuff, and then it just seemed to connect. A lot of people started enjoying it. But I mean, we just always started out with a beat, got a few chords down, wrote a melody, got some lyrics, and then that's just how it sort of carried on. Nobody taught us how to write songs. None of us are, well, Elliot is. Elliot's classically trained on about 5 instruments, but I don't have any proper tutorials. I taught myself guitar, and everyone's just yeah, we just like music, and we sort of know what we're doing, but we just write what we enjoy writing and what we like the sound of, basically.
Yeah. And how much thought went into like your original image then?
Again, I don't know. We just sort of we got a mate who lived in Brixton to do the artwork, and it was quite dark, and the sound was a bit dark as well. We used to write quite sad stuff, so we just sort of went down that
Is
route.
this
It's sort of
pre the first album? Is pre Alive?
yeah, pre the first album. We're all quite reflective, a little bit dark, but it were people really liked it, mate. So then we got management on board and stuff, and it just kept going.
So obviously like you busk quite a lot. That's like a big part of like how you became
Yeah.
so well known. But what was your first gig like? Your first proper gig?
What do you're gonna have to define proper gig? Because our first gig as Glass Caves were it were another competition in Preston against 5 rocker bands, and we didn't win.
Like a battle of the bands type thing.
It Battle of the Bands, yeah. I think you won something like 80 quid. So we're like,
Nice.
yeah,
Oh,
let's
mate.
let's do it.
But you lost.
We didn't win, no.
Well, what are they doing now, eh? What are they doing?
Who knows, mate? I can't remember band name, but I enjoyed it.
Alright, fair enough. And when
Yeah.
did you do like a first like ticketed event then?
First ticketed event, I can't even remember. Oh, I think it was we did a Foles DJ set show with a company called Absent Kelly in London, and that were just a rip off, mate. You basically had to pay to play, And we were just naive young band, and we were like, oh yeah, we'll like support Foals, and that's it, we've made it. Like, trying to get people down from Pontefract down on coaches and that.
Yeah.
It was something like 15 quid a ticket, and we were like, oh, this is it. So like, his first proper show really was in London, which is mental, with no real following. And we just went for it.
Sick.
It wasn't good though. It was
How many
quite
how many people did you manage to get down?
30, something like that.
That's
And
all
then
right for a first gig.
we needed to hit 50 to break even, so we had to pay out of
Oh.
our own pocket to play,
Oh, fucking hell.
which is pretty terrible on reflection, isn't it? But we thought that were our
Yeah.
in, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I suppose if someone throws the name Falls around.
That's it, mate. Who's to know? How would you know? You wouldn't know.
Still talking firsts then. What was your first single?
First single.
Is it still online?
Oh, I don't even know, mate. I think it were a song called Ditty Do or something like that. Pretty terrible, mate.
How have I never heard this?
I don't know. We deleted it. You just keep getting better, and you just sort of delete your past as if you weren't bad at one point.
I think I've got a hard drive full of like Glass Caves content that you dumped on my hard drive.
Maybe you do, mate. Maybe you
Will I
do.
find Ditty Do in there?
You probably will.
Mate, I'm gonna
Ditty
wait.
Do. There were a song called I can't even remember, mate. It's been a while.
Well, how long has it been?
It's been like 6, 7 years, maybe more.
So
Maybe
how long
more.
was how long after becoming Glass Caves did you release this first single, and how long after your first gig and stuff?
I'm not the man to ask this. I always lean on Elliot for dates and times. But so we made Glass Caves, and quite quickly we locked ourselves in Skinny's garage because he had a huge garage, and we just smashed out like 6 tracks, and we were like, we've got a set's worth here. Let's just go. So it moved quite quickly into we got the London gig, and we played a couple shows local. And then, yeah, it just kept developing. Probably all happened within about 4 or 5 months. Probably about 4 months from having nothing to becoming Glass Caves to having 6 tracks to playing shows.
Oh, okay.
Quite quick.
How did you know when you released this first single? How did you know that it was the right time to release it? And in hindsight, was it the right time?
I don't think anyone really knows, mate. We had no guidance. We just wrote what we liked, and we were just like, let's just see what the world thinks of this.
So
And
it was it was more of a spontaneous thing than it
yeah, it was
wasn't.
just spontaneous, mate. We just got it out there. The hard thing is, like, nobody really knows you, so you're just trying to warm people up to the brand and the band, and get people interested in what you're doing, really.
And how was it taken? What was the reception like?
I think we got about 6 likes on Facebook at the time.
Page likes or likes on the post?
Like, it'll be likes on the post, but they'll have probably been the page likes, because back in the day it were 100% reach on Facebook.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So yeah,
It's not great, mate.
yeah, that's back in the day, that, mate. And yeah, well, we started from nothing, didn't we? Nobody knew who we were. Nobody really cared, and you have to build respect. People don't just like your band off the cuff unless you have like this groundbreaking track that everyone's buzzing off and it grows organically.
Yeah.
But we had some good stuff. It wasn't like insane. It was just good. It was good enough. We enjoyed it, and people started liking it. So just yeah, I think you just have to take a punt on it, don't you? At some point, on reflection, I feel like we'd have done it differently if we knew. If you have a team on side, they'd be like, just keep writing. 6 tracks is not enough. Write 20 tracks, pick the 6 best out of them, and you're in a better place. But at the time, we just wanted to get going. We just wanted to start and see what we could do, really.
Did you see much of an uptick in, let's say, your career after that? Like, did you start getting more bookings because people could see your work?
When did we start? Well, we did. We started playing like local shows and stuff, and then one of the first breaks we got was like the Hop in Wakefield, Whoever were running the night really liked what we did, and they put us on like a show in you're about 100 cap venue with Ghost Poet and Metronomy. So we were like openers for that, and I was just like, "What is this?" That was before anyone really knew who they were, before they went quite big, really. So it would just then you start to get support from um from venues, from promoters, and they just keep pushing you up that ladder, and you just keep doing bigger and better things, really. Yeah, I think if you're good enough, people start to take notice, and then people start to push you further up the ladder.
So if that's one of the points that you can point to and say that's when things, I guess, got exponentially better, that's when your career took a big jump. What other points could you point to and say your career took a jump?
I think the career for us took a jump so we were writing stuff and people were taking notice, and like gigs had just been slowly getting a bit busier. But at that point, you're like trying to get friends and family down because you're just starting out. Um, but we really took a jump when we started busking in York, just because it was like paid advertisement, just bumping into loads of people in York, and people were liking what we were doing. It takes a lot of guts to go out on the street when people don't really care if you're there or not, but we did it, and it really worked well for us. And then we started filling out venues in York, just because people had seen us, and we'd done like basically like brand awareness on the street. Hey, it's all kicking off outside.
I should say you live in Liverpool, don't you? So hence the sirens.
What do you mean, mate? It's a beautiful little city.
Oh, I'm joking. I
Ah,
love
mate,
Liverpool.
you don't put your address up with Scousers, I'll have you.
They can come to Prague.
Mate, they'll find you.
I'll see you get on a plane.
And then I can't remember what I was saying now. The sirens did me over.
So we're talking about the sort of jumps in your career.
Yeah. So we did a bit of busking, and then we played a show with a band called Clubsmith, who were they were doing bits at the time. Loads of people were following them. They'd just been on like a UK tour with Kaiser Chiefs, so they were doing really good stuff. And we ended up supporting them in a tiny venue in York called The Basement. And at that time, we were just trying to find somebody to work with us. So we handed the lead singer a CD, and we were like, "Oh, just let us know what you think. Tell us how we could improve." We were just looking for someone to help us out, really, to join the Glass Caves team. So he took a CD away. He's called Sam Robson. He works at Future Sound now. He's like one of the marketing leaders for Future Sound in Leeds. And yeah, so he took a CD away, and he was just like, "Oh, I want to manage you." So he started managing us, and pretty quickly after that, we got a Radio 1 playlisting for a week, so they do a BBC Introducing playlisting on Radio 1, and you get played every day through that week. And because of that, everyone then started to... you get big brands on the side, like Radio 1 or BBC Introducing, or like GQ magazine. They wrote some articles about us and stuff. And I think management helped with that, because they put us to although press is not like everything, press helps with perception.
Definitely perception.
Yeah, GQ started writing about us. We had Clash writing about us, and then we got the Radio 1 thing, and then everyone was like, "These guys are going to blow up." And then we sold out Fibbers in York, which were like 450 cap. And we were just like, we've got to make a thing of this. And then we went full time as a band. That's how it really went. Yeah, York became home because, as I said, that's pretty much where we built what we do. Sort of like Glass Caves were built in York, just because we spent every weekend there just firing music at anyone who were willing to listen, even if they were like nipping to grab a loaf of bread in town. We were just like la 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 la, and if they liked it, they stuck about. And then we sold a lot of CDs. A lot of people started talking about us, and it just kept building, mate. Busking were pivotal for what we've done, really.
How would you describe the journey from busking? And okay, now you've just done this big Fibbers show, in the Glass Cave story, but well, just take me from that to having a top 40 debut album.
Um, from that show. So like when we got all these, we got quite a bit of buzz quite early on, but we didn't really have any. We didn't really have an amount of songs to back it up. It probably came a bit too soon for us. You know what I mean? I think when you've got something like that, you need a bigger team behind you. You need to be ready to go with new tracks to go straight to radio and keep the hype. At that point, we'd got like 4 track EP, and all the older stuff wasn't really good enough. So we didn't really have the momentum, and it
Yeah.
sort of died down a bit. But so we just took it back. We just kept building. Obviously, like perception had changed. We've been on Radio One for a full week. People were talking about us, and then shows in Leeds started filling out. In Manchester, we sold out Academy 3.
So after you get all this press, you sell out
Yeah.
Fibbers, which is about 400, 450.
Yeah, about
And
that.
then what the ones in Leeds and Manchester?
Leeds did Brudenell, and that's like 300. We didn't quite sell that one out. We did about 280 in there, which is pretty damn good. Oh no, to be honest, we were doing Cockpit at that time. That's when Cockpit were open, and then Cockpit were like 280, and we did sell that one out in room 2 of the Cockpit, and then we had Manchester were like 300.
Yeah, something
So
like
like we got like 3 big regions there, about coming up to like 1,000 people who were coming out to watch us.
And what's that
And then
compared? So, if you can attribute that to sort of the press you were getting, how did that compare to what you were getting before?
what was it before that?
Mm.
I don't know, probably like 50
Wow.
in those regions, something like that.
So really, like getting the management and the press was like a big part of the
Yeah,
success then.
it did. It played quite a lot. It played quite a big part. I don't think press is quite as effective as it used to be, because
No.
5, 6 years ago, it was like an influential thing to be on Clash, to be on Enemy, to be in GQ. Like people were like, "Wow, this is amazing." And then now you look at it and it's a bit like, "Oh, okay, it's another publication." I think from what I've seen, I think it changes perception, and people are like, "Oh, these big companies are behind it," but I
Yeah.
don't think it holds the same weight and gravitas that it used to.
That's interesting. I'd say, yeah, definitely perception, but I just don't think people read
No,
publications like that much
no,
anymore.
I agree. I
So
agree.
that sort of stuff, when we did, we'll get into this more later, but when we did when I did a marketing campaign for you guys
Yeah,
and took this trailer and had quotes from GQ and
Yeah.
I don't know, was it BBC Introducer? I don't remember who it was exactly who had these quotes from,
yeah. I think we
but
had like
it looked
Line of Best
amazing.
Fit and Clash.
Line of Best Fit, that was it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you're right. So like we'd go from there. You'd have these quotes there, and it'd say GQ, and people are like, "Whoa, fucking hell! Like, who are these?"
People take a notice. I
Yeah.
think I've noticed that more because I am working in like marketing, because I end up taking your role.
Yeah.
Screw for the neck. Like the more I look at it, like to have like a familiarity within anything, which is what the brands give it, is your biggest mountain to climb. As soon as you get over that, you break down that first barrier of like, it's almost like tribalism. You get these groups of people, and if they don't know who you are, instantly they're offish. I think if you've got something that sort of mediates it and introduces you to them, like a brand that they know already, that they're familiar to, that they will allow into the tribe,
That's
then it
interesting.
works.
It's like a middleman.
Yeah, what we've seen more recently is like location specific. If you can make yourself more relevant to a city by like taking a photo in their city, or like doing a video in their city, they're more likely to respond to that piece of content because it's familiar to them.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that is what we were trying to do with you in York, I suppose, wasn't it? When we were doing doing a lot of marketing there and saying York's favourite buskers, Glass Caves are doing X
and it
Y.
worked. It worked to a degree.
So you've played your shows in Leeds, Manchester, and York. You've gone up by what, 250 at least in each region.
Yeah, about that.
Where did you go from here on the path to number one? Not number one. I bet you wish it was number one.
Number one. Yeah, I wish, mate. I wish. Well, obviously, like we've been throughout this, we had management, but it were all self-funded, which is like not really heard of to progress. So like we were busking to fund everything, and the management were just like, we need an album. We either get a label or it comes down to a point where you just self-fund it. So we pitched the tracks that we had to labels. Nobody really jumped at it. We didn't really have any like major backing. We didn't have the management company were just small at the time. It didn't have a good infrastructure. We didn't really have like any other financial backing. So we ended up just taking it onto our own shoulders, and it was all DIY. So we just bussed for like 2 months solid. We didn't have a day off, not one day. And I hated busking, mate. But we managed to pull together just enough money to make an album. So we pulled an album together, which is alive, and that's like the string of tracks that you hear. We did we worked with Rich Turvey, who did the Blossoms, who does all of the Blossoms albums, and we just got it out, and that, to be honest, the album is what helps us take everything up a level again. But without taking it up a level, I think just everyone who'd heard about us just really got behind the album, and it was just like back the local lads who don't have a label, and
Yeah.
they just wanted to see us do well. So yeah, we got to number 40 through Facebook. Really, it was like a turn
Was
of a
it
digital
Facebook?
age. Yeah, I think it was, and it
Because
was
in
at a
my head,
time
in
when
my head, for some reason, it was like a busking thing. You're just selling on the
I think
street.
it were
But
both, because you needed to follow it up through busking, and at that point it were like you posted a post on like Facebook, and you come in and like 500, 600 likes, and we only had about 4,000 likes on the page. So it were a very different social media game back then.
yeah, don't have to pay, don't have to spend anything to get quite a lot of really good marketing.
You didn't have to spend anything.
Well,
And
no.
now it's like if you want that sort of reach on Facebook, you have to spend a good amount.
Okay, so
Depressing or what?
well, it's depressing. Well, it's depressing, but this is why I wanted to start this, is because
Yeah.
a lot of people really aren't keen on the fact that this is the way it works now. You have to market yourself like this. You have to do these things. You have to go on that way. And
Yeah.
you know, you grow up, you hear stories of people who've made it,
Yeah.
and all they did was, you know, if like Oasis, they just play a show in Scotland, and then their future manager or future record label, fucking hell, Alan McGee, I can't remember what role he was,
Yeah.
but he's right there, and he gives them, he takes them and makes them a star. Whereas, unless you're Justin Bieber, you get picked up off the street by someone. That just doesn't happen anymore. And graft now, yeah, it does include playing shows and just trying to put yourself in front of the right people, but
Yeah.
also maybe what as importantly I think is this the online aspects and how you put yourself out there and how you put yourself in
It
front of
is,
people
yeah.
online.
Well, it is. Well, you look, people still try and go down the Beatles route where it's like just play a gig every night of the day, every night of the week for
Every night of the day.
every night of the day. The daytime of the night. Anyway, little Flight of the Conchords reference. Yeah, you can't really do that now anymore. Like, I think back in the day when there were no laptops, there were no TV, there were no radio. Well, there were radio, obviously, but there were less of this being constantly entertained. You didn't have like an entertainment system in the palm of your hand like we have now. And if you wanted to do something, instead of looking at the walls or sweeping your house because you had no Hoover, you went out to listen to some live music at a local bar or club, and that's when you could just play every night of the week, pick up different fans, and really get a buzz going around you like that.
Yeah.
But
That's
nowadays,
that is how you put yourself in
yeah,
front of people. Well,
yeah,
back then
that's it.
was just doing that. Whereas
That's
now
it.
it's different because it's, again, the way you say, mediated through a screen, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing, and I think people have to get over the aversion to
Yeah.
doing social media and getting really on and behind social media.
Yeah, that's it. It's the best tool we have in this day and age where, like I said, I mean, your entertainment system is in the palm of your hand, but it's a prime. We know that we can put adverts into the palm of your hand because you've got a phone, right there where you can and adverts can just land in with content of a band and pushing gigs and letting people know who you are and what you're about and what you're up to.
So this is marketing manager of Scruff of the Neck, Matt Hallis talking there.
It is,
But
yeah.
was there a point where you were like the people maybe talking about now, where you were averse to doing this on social media?
It's weird for me because it's all I've known. We had when we were just coming up, and I did my own like personal stuff. I was on MySpace when we started.
That shows your age, mate.
Yeah, mate. And this was like when I was about what 11, 12, 13, and then as we kept going, Facebook were introduced, and then when the band were in full swing, Facebook were like was the one to be using. And then because that was just the best way of putting yourself out there, that's just what I've done. I guess the thing is, it's been eased gradually. Like the longer you've been using Facebook, the more you have to pay. That's just the way they've done it to make more money because it's become corporate. That's just the way it is. But
yeah, and it's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, because it was so steady. I don't think you really knew. I heard an analogy the other day. It's like a frog in a pot of boiling water. If you just throw it in when it's red hot, it'll jump out. If you just slowly boil it, it'll just fall asleep and you can cook it and it never moves. And that's what I'm a cooked frog, mate.
So we touched before on how your sound developed at the start, but it has definitely developed since then. It's developed from the first album to the Trilogy EP.
Yeah, it's well different, isn't it?
Yeah, how would you describe that change?
It's like, well, we lost his bassist. He just quit when we were on the way back from Ireland, and so we replaced him with a machine. And I think that had a bit of a part in it, mate. It's becoming very very AI. It's like iRobot or everything that I'm chatting about. But yeah, we don't have a bassist anymore. It's backing track, and it played a part because everything went out to a click track. Everything became a bit more digital, and we just started introducing more synths because Eddie joined the band.
Eddie on keys.
Eddie's on keys. I mean, you still got the core of me, Elliot, and Connor, but yeah, things have changed around the band, and I think that changed the sound a little bit as well. I think to a degree, Stranger Things were a bit of an influence as well, like bringing that 70s synth vibe. I always I just think
really
it's
interesting.
An amazing sound. So
was that something you planned at the time, or you look back on hindsight and say that probably had an effect?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think I was just like the soundtrack to that series is insane and it makes me feel something, so I want to try and go down that route to a degree. I think that was my mindset.
That's great. And to what extent has your image evolved along with that?
Our image used to just be, back in the day, it were just 4 guys in leather jackets doing the whole band routine. And as we've gone on, we've just gone. Connor's usually the guy with all the style ideas, and he's just like, well, let's wear suits. And I'm like, you what?
You made it work. It's not like Beatles suits, is it? It's like your flowery suit, where it's like black and
the
red.
Beatles did it well, though, because it like unifies a band, and I think that's what people like. They like to see as this cohesive unit. And I think all of a sudden, when you're all wearing the same thing, it's like it's a bit more of a statement. There's a bit more of a togetherness about it.
I remember Blossoms said that when they started out, they wanted to have that unifying thing, that thing that people can latch onto and say, oh, it's the band who are that, who look like that, who sound like that, something that's so strong. And for them, it was turtlenecks, black turtlenecks.
Is that what it became? Yeah. Turtlenecks is a little bit of a thing that in what we're doing in a way, to be fair, but...
Well, I think I much prefer yours. I mean, this is just a personal thing, but I much prefer yours with the range of colour in the suits and stuff. I think it reflects how that sound has changed. It's quite a bit And then maybe because it's focusing a bit more on synths, it seems a bit
Yeah,
brighter.
yeah. You're probably right, mate. So yeah, it's become a little bit more poppy, and like I said, we used to be quite depressing, and now we try to be a bit happier. It's tough, mate. I have to really reach down deep inside to be an happy man, but trying my best. You know what I mean?
I hope that's not true.
It's a bit true, isn't it? It's a bit true.
So with it, so sound was a bit of both. It was a bit natural and a bit planned.
Yeah.
What about image then? Was the image, was it planned to
The image is
change? Like you
planned, innit?
said, Connor.
Like we went down the neon route, and then we got an artist to create the artwork for Trilogy, and we just sort of, yeah, it all just started to come together like that, really. It were natural in its process, but we had people that were working to specs, and it became what it was, but with an idea in mind to start with. It just sort of evolved, you know what I mean? And I just love neon stuff. I just think it's interesting.
I think considering you have the job I used to do,
Yeah,
we'd both be able to speak to this. But I'm interested to hear your point of view.
yeah.
To what extent you think image and sound going hand in hand? How do you describe how important that is?
I think it's like that cohesive thing. I think people really like to understand what you're about. One of the best examples of this for me is like Cassia.
They are the example I always point to.
Yeah, because it's so cohesive and they know what they are. And sometimes I think, to be honest, that's been our downfall because we get so bored with one sound of a track, we'll move totally in the other direction to create something that keeps us excited. But the hardest thing to do is to sell a bag of, it's like a pick and mix. You know what I mean? It's like nobody really knows what they're getting themselves into, and they can't. If they like one track, they like that track, but then they hear another one, they're not sure about it. Then they'll have another one, they're like, yeah, that's a pretty good one. Then they'll have another one, it's like, oh yeah, I love that one now. And it's not like, okay, people can understand what that one track is, and this next one's in a similar vein, but it's variant, and the next one's similar, but it's a variant. And I think that's an easier thing to sell because it's a proper product then. And I think maybe that's what the latest trilogy tracks gave, a bit more of a cohesive sound. It felt a bit more focused.
Yeah. What I always used to say, again, like using Cassia as an example,
Yeah,
it was if you looked at any part of their look, their image, or their sound, whatever you heard first or saw
yeah,
first, you would
yeah,
understand what they were.
yeah.
You look at their image, you basically have an idea of what they're going to sound like, and it is that. So
It
if you
is,
look at
mate.
whatever you see first, if
Yeah.
you're into that, you'll be into all of it, and it will like I think you'll be into it quite a lot because you can latch on very easily to a band that a band's image and sound are so well thought out and so well put together.
Yeah, it's a very good piece of branding, it's Cassia.
Mm.
It's a very cohesive brand. That's what it is.
Mm. And what I like about those guys actually is I don't know not to put down the effort that I'm sure they have put into it, but that is as natural I suppose as it can be with whilst
Yeah.
being that good.
Yeah. It
Like
is
that is
really, yeah.
that is what those guys are.
Yeah.
That's what they're about. That's what the sound's all about. It just all works perfectly.
Yeah, it works, mate. It really works.
So what did you when you say the trilogy EP, it became more of a thing there,
Hmm.
that you tied image and sound together. What was the reception to that like? Was it an improvement on previous stuff?
Yeah, 100%. Everything stepped up.
Yeah,
People started to take you a bit more seriously, I think, because all of a sudden it just connects, doesn't it? Everything feels like tied together and knitted together, and you get to understand it a bit more.
yeah,
Just makes more sense, doesn't it? I think, and it helped to separate a bit because the aesthetic wasn't just a band; it was like a band that's been thought about a bit more.
yeah.
But that's an hard thing to step into on the next movement. I'm like, I don't know where to go with it. And now I've caught myself in no man's land. I don't know if to carry on like neon or do we change it up or I don't know. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. I'll be interested to see where you go with that.
Mate, I've not got a clue, so I'm interested to see where we go with that as well.
So, we're talking about gigs before,
Yeah,
and there's going to be a bit of a gap of time here. I'm going from the album release
yeah.
and top 40
Mm-hmm.
to being to your biggest post trilogy EP show, which was at Manchester, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So how did that go, and how was the what was the process of getting that show and then trying to sell tickets and then actually performing?
Yeah. Well, we booked the show just after we'd got this record together, these 3 tracks. And the aim was really to try and sell out Academy 2 in Manchester, which is like 900 cap. And at that point, the biggest show we'd done in Manchester was the 350 cap at Academy 3 a few years before. So that would seem like madness, really. So what we really utilised, so it's changed in the last 2 years when Facebook changed the algorithm when you were still working with us. He were like, Facebook was a dream, and that's how like the Hunter broke, because it were really cheap to hit a lot of people. We didn't have the cash, and I wish we had it more at that time.
Any band that hit it hard in that time,
Yeah, they were
really
going to
saw the
do well.
benefits.
Yeah, so that's switched when Facebook changed the algorithm. They made organic reach pretty much nothing, and it's become Instagram centric, and that's where you can reach more people effectively.
Yeah.
It's still not on the same scale as it used to be.
No.
Like, it almost felt like a little cheat period where it was great and you could hit a lot of people.
That's it, isn't it? You've really got
Yeah.
to find. There are places where attention is
Yeah.
underpriced. Like
Yeah.
there are places where, like Facebook pre 2018, pre 27, like middle of 2017, I think was when it changed.
Yeah.
Then back then, so underpriced for what you were getting, and it still is. It still is underpriced. You look at what Google AdWords is now.
Yeah.
And you pay out the arse to get anything from that. But
well, it's still a lot cheaper than traditional marketing. Like, if you want to do traditional marketing, you put a poster up in the street for 100 quid for like 3 weeks, and you're not really hitting the right people. You're hitting a big group of people who hopefully like what they're seeing, and they might not land on it. It's not specific. It's not tailored for them. It's just a big blanket thrown on people.
Do you think there is any value in traditional marketing like that? Because I think
there is.
You do?
I think there is. I think it's a touch point. It's like if you see a certain brand online, and then you're walking through the street and there's already that familiarity there, and then it clicks. It's just another point where you go, oh, wait a second, and it's like it goes back to like psychology when I studied at college, and you have something called a schema, and that a schema is like your memory. Your memory is just called a schema, and it only becomes stronger with a repetition of the same data. So like if you're trying to remember a certain phrase in Spanish, for example, if you repeat it 30 times, the schema is stronger than if you just repeated it 5. And I think it's the similar thing with like a brand. If you hear about it once, it's nothing. If you hear about it 5 times, it becomes familiar. If you hear about it 20 times, it's much stronger again. And then that's where the affinity and the familiarity comes in.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So, personally, I don't know. I think I shouldn't say there isn't use. I think there's definitely use in that kind of thing. And I think it's like you say, there's you've seen a band online, then you see them. Oh, they're playing Manchester. As you're walking down the street, like that will stick in your mind more than maybe just 2 adverts on social media. But I think it's like you were saying, how much you're spending to get them distributed in that way.
Yeah,
I just don't think the price is worth it compared to what you can do on social media right now.
That's the beauty of social media, that you hit the right people through targeting, through refining your audience. You can just cut off the fat, and that's the beauty of it. But then at the same time they're making it a lot more expensive to do that.
Yeah.
So it's going to get to a point where they will probably be on a similar level, I reckon.
And then it's a case of finding where the next underpriced
That's
attention
it.
is.
That's it.
Yeah.
You just got to be ahead of the curve.
Okay, so I think for the last few questions, we'll wrap up. Hopefully, I have some funny stories there.
All right, I'm in.
What was your best gig ever?
Best gig ever. It's split between two for me. I think straight off. Oh no, it's three now. We've got South by Southwest. We just went to. We played on the roof of the Hilton Hotel, and it's like I've never been to America. We were just poolside. The weather was amazing. We're on a high rise. We're on the top of a high rise hotel, and we're just playing, looking out across Austin, and that I can't. Yeah, it's one of the best things I've ever done. But then to balance that out, we played Coco for NME in London, in Camden, and it's like an old theatre, and it just went up all the way to the back, but it's not got seats in it. It's just ready for bands to play, and that were like must have been about 600 people in there.
Wow.
700 people in there, and we had Judas at the time was supporting us, now called Loner, and it was just a mint gig, just amazing gig. Like I think that's my favourite venue that we've ever played. So that were amazing. And then the third one is probably the Academy 2 gig that we just played. Because, as I said, we the biggest gig we'd done in Manchester before we'd marketed Glass Caves in Manchester were 350 people. And that gig, there were a turnout of just over 800. So it's like, I can't argue when there's a room of that many people. It's just it's an amazing feeling. Like there's strength in numbers, isn't there? And it's just a bit mad, that one. That were great, mate. Probably goes to Austin still, even though there weren't that many people there. The actual experience were mint.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we've just done best gigs. What about the worst gig you've ever had? And I think I might know one of your answers for this.
You might know the answer for this.
I might do. I'm not sure.
Why? What you saying? Which gig you've been to that was
well,
terrible?
Straight away. I mean, I don't know if it counts, but
Go
this
on.
probably isn't why you thought of it. But was it Aberdeen?
Aberdeen, yeah, it is, mate. I forgot about that one. That definitely is. Up there.
I can see why you forgot about it.
I don't think I've ever been to a gig before where there's no sound system or lighting rig, or staff, or any beer behind the bar. But Aberdeen was the one and only time that we've had to experience that, mate.
What was the story there?
So they'd booked a gig in. It had been booked in about 3 months. And we turned up at the venue, but the venue never managed to inform us that the venue was changing hands in the 2 weeks that our gig was in. So there was just nothing there. It was just a bare building. And I think 3 people turned up because everyone believed it would just shut. So we're a dead room. They'd pulled this sound system out of nowhere that was terrible. And there were about 3 spotlights on us. And the only other people there were the bands and the promoter. So, yeah, that was truly terrible. It was a truly terrible gig, that.
Okay.
I mean, the only other time I can think is when we were in London. And Skinny, the old synth player, now writes for NME, he used to have, he used to run off Cubase for all the synth sounds. And he had, it was like, Cubase used to have this memory stick that you needed to unlock the software, some convoluted way of making sure that nobody just got a knockoff version of Cubase and used it. But that meant that every gig we went to, he needed that memory stick to play. So he sound checked with it. We did everything right. We were in place. And then it were our turn because we were headlining the show to go and play, and all of a sudden he's like, I don't know where my memory stick is.
Oh no.
So we had I think we
no.
had bits of backing track on there. His synth for a lot of the key parts, and Yeah, we just couldn't do anything. So we had a full room of people, and he's just like, I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is. We're stressing out. We jump off stage. We're looking everywhere for it, and then we just keep looking. And it must have been like 15 minutes past that, and we got a full room of people getting like restless for obvious reasons. And it turns out it's gone through like a little hole on his inside pocket, and the memory stick's in the lining of his coat. So it'd been there for like 15 minutes. So we just had to rip open his jacket, and everyone's just like, "What is happening here?" But yeah, he plugged his memory stick in, and we were away, mate. Cubase, never design anything like that again, please.
Okay, and second to last question.
Go on.
Being as specific as possible, what's your biggest pie in the sky dream for Glass Caves? At this point, you'll know, okay, we're done. We can retire now.
I don't think anyone retires in music because unless you're at the very top of your game, you don't actually make that much money. But if we got to play Red Rocks in America, either supporting someone or headlining, that's it for me. I'd just probably quit and live on a beach for the rest of my life. Red Rocks is the one. I think I might have even told you that before, mate. I tell everyone it. If we get to play Red Rocks in America, I think I'm done. It's just the most beautiful venue in the world for me.
Where is it? Whereabouts?
It's in Denver. It's in Denver, mate, but it's just carved into the rock. They've just carved it into the rock.
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
It's insane. Look at that.
Yeah,
I
wow.
need to play
Okay.
there.
Yeah, for anyone who can't Google it, who's listening, it's like this huge rock jutting out of the ground. Well, then there's this amphitheatre.
It's like Ayers Rock in Australia, isn't it?
I'll take your word for it, mate. Oh, and the view. A view across.
It's so good, mate. So good.
Colorado. Wow. No, and for you as well, for you as a band, Glass Caves, that is perfect.
Yeah, it'd be mint, mate.
Your sound there would be.
That's the aim.
So, final question then.
All right.
What are the plans for the next year?
The plans for next year, I think we're aiming to write an album. Obviously, like.
Brilliant.
Yeah, 2 years ago we were all full-time band, and when you're without a label, and when you're at like the middle stage as a band, you're not grassroots anymore. You're like a touring band, but you're actually not selling loads of records. You're not like a buzz. You're not hype. Then you find you run out of money quite quickly. But saying that, well, basically, we're all working like jobs alongside the band, but the aim is to just find as much time as we can, pull together loads of new tracks, and then fingers crossed get a label on side, get some funding behind it, and just put it out. I mean, it might even end up a scruff of the neck label, because there's some exciting news going around that at the minute, which would be cool because then I could just work on it myself as well and have the time to do it. But yeah, that's the plan.
Brilliant.
To release an album is the next step, I think. But then first I need to know what aesthetic we need to go down and what sound we should do. So fire in some ideas here, Esper, mate.
Might do it after the call. So that was the episode, and this is the outro. We have another little bit coming up in a few seconds. So me and Matt talking about my old work and his current work, Scruff of the Neck, and what's in store for the future of Glass Caves. I think it's a really interesting part of the podcast. Unfortunately, couldn't fit anywhere else, but I'd like to think putting it at the end here gives it a bit more weight, its own little section for it to sit and be thought of in its own right. If you have any suggestions for guests, I'd love to hear them, or send this to people you'd like me to interview. There are a lot of people to get on, and I've got some quite exciting guests coming up, including some looks at music scenes around the world, which I think will be really interesting, just to see the difference between what I'm used to in England and specifically Manchester, the live scene there, and compare that to what's going on in other cities, I think will be really interesting. So yeah, stick around, enjoy this next bit, and stay tuned for the next one. Should be coming out next week. Thanks. So how soon after that 350 cap show at Academy 3 or 300 cap show, how soon after that was that I met you? Because I'll say I met you busking
Yeah,
on the
well,
streets of Manchester.
you did, mate. I think, well, that was the first show we'd ever done with Scruff the Neck. It was like, it was
Okay,
the
so do you,
biggest
want, do, you want to, so do you want to explain Scruff of the Neck?
Scruff the Neck, explain it. Well, Scruff the Neck started off as a live promotions company run by Mark, who's the founder, Mark Littman, that is. And yeah, he just sort of put loads of shows on. He saw us busking, actually. That's where we like got a relationship. Yeah, he had Alf
Didn't
on his
know that.
shoulders, and he were just walking through Manchester, and he saw us busking, and he was like, "These guys are bloody good." And then he put us on a show. I think the first place we played with him was like Atma or something, quite a small one. The next one then we did Academy 3 in Manchester, and it just blew up. And then
Oh, was the Manchester one with Mark?
yeah, it was
with
with
Scruff of the
Mark.
Neck?
Well, the biggest gig he'd ever done at that point.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and then
Okay, so you were already with Scruff at this point.
yeah. I think we were with Scruff before you joined, and then you joined the team. And he wanted to try and start getting content and stuff, didn't he? So you came out with... Were you with Joe, actually?
With Joe McGrath, yeah. Joe McGrath of
Yeah.
XS Manchester.
Yeah, so I think you both came out and you filmed us. And we put... What it like Facebook? Did we do Facebook Live or something
Joe
like
did
that?
Facebook Live. I just recorded you, tried to get some
Yeah.
content for you, and then made a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
video
yeah.
that advertised, I think,
Yeah, I
your
remember,
upcoming
mate.
Manchester show.
Yeah. I think we had probably had a new Manchester show coming. Yeah, so...
Well, it was after that. It was a few days after that we you played Fibbers again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I shot that as well.
Yeah, you did, mate. Great times. And yeah, so now from that we did like live, and then obviously you two were obviously like working for Scruff then, or like just getting involved. So that was really probably like the start of like a bit of a creative division and creative / marketing on it really, because you started doing the marketing stuff.
Yeah.
So there's now
Yeah,
a
well, so I
marketing-
started doing posters and trailers, and then started doing Facebook adverts for gigs, and then that became the marketing division eventually.
Yeah, so then there's now we've got like the marketing division, which is a separate thing to the creative division, who are creating like music videos and also doing a lot of like short form stuff for the marketing team. But then now we've got a full label which existed before but not in the same capacity. We've got a full live team that existed before, but now it's 3 members on it.
I think I want to try and get Mark on, hopefully, just to talk, like do basically a Scruff of the Neck episode.
All right, mate. Yeah, I didn't realise you were dumping marketing on this. I like that. That'll be nice.
Absolutely.
Get him on the podcast.
I'd love to get him on. It's just finding time when he's available. So you're busking in Manchester is when I meet you. Then you do Fibbers afterwards. And I think, how did your relationship with Scruff progress from that point? I think you weren't exclusive to Scruff at that point, were you? For at least
no,
with booking
I think
agent.
we were. Yeah, when we first started working with Scruff, we were managed by Tritone, who actually managed Rich Turvey as well. And then further down the line, we just stopped working with them for various reasons. And it was like just over a year and a bit ago, Mark took us on as management. I think we're like a year and a half ago now. So
was it really only that long ago?
Yeah, a year and a half.
Wow.
We signed Scruff the Neck management.
I had no idea it was that soon, that recent.
Yeah, a year and a half.
Okay, and then from there you go on to do this huge Manchester show.
Yeah. Well, we're a huge show across the country, really. We did Leeds. We pretty much sold out at like 300 people. We did Manchester that were 900. We did London that we'd got about 320. Nottingham we got 150, which were nearly at capacity. Where else did we play? Glasgow, we did like 200 in Glasgow. So everywhere just took a big jump up again. So it was great.
And so this next year,
Yeah.
you've got like I think your biggest ever tour.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's the most people we're ever gonna play. So we're hitting a lot more cities this time. We got our biggest show is gonna be at Lead Mill in Sheffield, which is like another 900 capacity venue, but
Wow,
it's the biggest show we'll have ever done in Yorkshire, which is great, being the Yorkshire folk we are. And
hairy Yorkshire lads.
yeah, that's it. And so we're going up to Glasgow, we're doing Edinburgh, we're doing Newcastle. We're doing Manchester, Liverpool, Hull, Nottingham, Birmingham, London, Bristol, Brighton. We're doing a lot of shows. So we're just going to be hitting a lot of regions, which is cool.
You excited?
I'm very excited to just get playing again, to be honest, mate. And I'm just excited to think about how we're going to dress up the stage this time around. It's exciting.